Appearance on Dion's Daily Dose does not imply endorsement from or by any candidate or guest. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by Dion Bergeron or Dion's Daily Dose are his own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of any guest. Material and information presented is for general information purposes only. The Dion's Daily Dose name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service. If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose.
Well, good evening, everyone. I hope that you're having an excellent week. This is a special segment of Dion's Daily Dose called Face to Face. And it is face to face with Dion and Shawn. I am Dion.
And I'm Shawn.
So tonight, can you actually believe that the House vote, not that they just voted, because we've seen the votes, you know, they voted to hold what's his name in contempt too, right?
Are you talking about
impeach? They voted to impeach Mayorkas, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't get the votes for that. But they actually passed the contempt against this guy.
Yep. They actually impeached Mayorkas, if I remember right.
Did they?
They got the votes, I believe.
Well, okay. Well, maybe they did. But, that's right. They did. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. But the Senate is just Senate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Right. But they actually did a contempt against him. Now, do you know what the possible potential outcome of this is?
There's rumors that there's people in the House who actually want to force another vote either tomorrow or tomorrow's Friday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Either tomorrow or next week, where they're going to instruct the sergeant of the House sergeant of arms of the House to arrest Garland and put him in the basement jail that they have. We'll see.
When's the last time that's been used? It's been a long time.
I read online, I think it's only been used once in like 1877.
What? Oh my God, dude. Oh, can you imagine the liberal tears?
Oh. I don't know if Speaker Johnson will actually have that vote.
You know what? I could see that. Because if you try and you fail, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
I can see it. But let's get into it. We've got a full breakdown thanks to Shawn here. He's got the timestamps. We've got the video. Roll the tape. No, we got the video for you, and we're going to get into this right now. So our first little clip here is the 143 mark. And it is Representative Jim Jordan from Ohio. Republican Jim Jordan from Ohio. You know what? We're going to go right over here. There we go. All right. Let's go.
Special Counsel Hur said President Biden, quote, willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. Joe Biden not only kept information he wasn't allowed to keep, he shared it with people who weren't allowed to get it. And on page 231, the special counsel told us why President Biden did this.
Before we go on, I just want to make sure everybody understands, what is this impeachment hearing about?
Okay.
They're impeaching him because, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, they're impeaching him because they're refusing to release the actual audio of the interview that Hur had with President Biden.
So that basically the House said, okay, give us that audio. We want to hear it, though, the entirety of it, right? And this guy's just sitting on it.
Yeah. And there's rumors they got the transcript for this, and there are rumors that they actually tweet the transcript too.
That they altered the transcript?
And they're trying to investigate that too.
Which is why they want the entirety. Okay, so they got the transcript, they looked at it, and they said, this seems a little off. So they said, okay, just give us the whole video. And then they're just slow rolling it or not
they don't want to give it.
They don't want to give it up.
No.
Right. Okay. So what they did is they called a motion. It was seconded. They had to vote on it. And it's to impeach.
No, hold him in contempt.
Or sorry. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Man, it's my dreams getting ahead of me. To hold Garland in contempt. Here we go. Sorry for the interruption.
He said, quote, President Biden had strong motivations to ignore proper procedures for safeguarding the classified information in his notebooks. He had decided months before leaving office to write a book for which he got paid $8 million. So
can you imagine? Like, seriously, forget everything else. $8 million, man.
Yeah.
And it's funny to me how all these politicians suddenly get incredibly, that's why it infuriates me so much with the whole Trump tax returns thing and how do he make his money and da-da-da-da-da. I'm not worried about how they got rich before they become politicians. A lot more concerned about how they become rich afterwards. But moving on.
So we have motive, an $8 million motive. We have the elements of the crime: knowingly keeping classified information, knowingly disclosing classified information. But despite all this, Special Counsel Hur declined to recommend prosecution for President Biden because Joe Biden is, quote, a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. On page 207 of his report, Special Counsel Hur said Mr. Biden's memory also appeared to have significant limitations, both at the time he spoke to the ghostwriter, Mr. Swanitzer, in 2017, as evidenced by their recorded conversations, and today as evidenced by his recorded interview with our office. The committees need the audio recordings to determine whether the Justice Department appropriately carried out justice by not prosecuting the president. Because remember what they told us. Justice Department said, we're going to operate independent of the White House. They said, we'll be impartial, independent arbiters of the facts. Okay, maybe so, but what we do know
How many
is
times do we
this.
hear that?
One former president's being charged, Joe Biden's not being. We think we're entitled, actually, we know we're entitled to all the evidence and the best evidence. And the transcripts alone are not sufficient evidence of the state of the president's memory.
Agreed.
Especially since the executive branch has a history of changing transcripts. We saw this in late April. The transcript the White House put out didn't match the video and audio recording of President Biden's speech.
True.
And only after the White House was caught did they change the transcript.
Yes.
And in that case, and in this case, the audio recording is the best evidence of the words that President Biden actually spoke. Following the release of Special Counsel Hur's report, both the Judiciary Committee and the Oversight Committees issued subpoenas requiring Attorney General Garland to turn over the transcripts of the audio recordings of Special Counsel Hur's interviews with President Biden and his ghostwriter. To date, the Attorney General has failed to produce those recordings. In fact, he told us last week he wasn't going to do it. And that is why we're here. Despite the committee's best efforts, the department has continued to withhold the audio recordings of those interviews without providing any constitutional or legal basis to do so. Just hours before the committee was set to meet and consider the contempt resolution, the department notified the committee that President Biden had asserted, at the Attorney General's urging, executive privilege over the audio recordings. It's simple. Attorney General Garland holds information vital to the committee's legislative oversight and the House impeachment inquiry. Remember, this body voted December 13th of last year to enter that phase of our oversight duty and impeachment inquiry. The department has a legal obligation to turn over the requested material. Attorney General Garland's willful refusal to constitutes contempt of Congress. This resolution upholds the institutional power of the House by recommending that the House find Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress for failing to comply with the committee's subpoena. Our oversight and impeachment responsibilities are too important to allow the Attorney General to willfully disregard this. I urge my colleagues to support this resolution, and we reserve the balance of our time.
You know, I just want to bring up real quick, either our Congress, which represents the power of the legislative branch of our government, the highest government in the land, has the power, or they don't. If they do, then when they order something produced, it should be produced. And if they don't have that power, then we're not the true constitutional republic that we swear we are, right?
That's true.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one we have, oh boy, why do you do this to me, Shawn? The next one we have.
He's the ranking member of the
I know,
Judiciary Committee.
I know. We've got Poopus Pants Nadler, who is Democrat from New York. We got to listen to him for over 6 minutes. I don't like you right now. I'm just kidding. Shawn did a phenomenal job of presenting both sides. And I try to remind myself of that every time I'm forced to listen to this clown. But thank you. Seriously, I'm going to give you a little guard. I mess with you a little bit, but I do truly appreciate this. Here we go. Let's hear what the left has to say.
Seek recognition.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such times as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, the dishonesty that we have just heard is illustrated by what Mr. Jordan just said. His selective quote from Mr. Herr's report. He said, "Our investigation uncovered evidence that President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen." The report does say that. But he neglects a sentence, a paragraph later. However, for the reasons summarized below, we conclude that the evidence does not establish Mr. Biden's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
Because
yeah, there's more to that. Do you want to say it now, or does it cover it later?
I think it covers it.
Okay. Well, we'll leave it for right now, but let's try not to. We're very, very familiar with selective editing from the Democrats. We see it all the time with Donald Trump. Remember, inject yourself with bleach, ladies and gentlemen. That's what Orange Man said. No, he never said that. I watched the briefings myself.
That is deceptive. Secondly, as the majority well knows, the president asserted executive privilege in this matter. Maybe that was proper, maybe not. But the way to contest executive privilege is not by a contempt resolution.
Didn't they rule that it wasn't acceptable?
Yeah, under Trump.
That not only that, like on this, didn't they say that this is not, or was it the House who said not good enough?
I don't think the court has ruled on this.
Okay. But under Trump, they said, no, you can't do that. So once again, no one is above the law.
It's by going to court and letting the court decide whether the exercise of executive privilege is warranted or not. And for that reason also, this resolution fails. Mr. Speaker, the Judiciary Committee under Republican control has spent the last 18 months and 20 million taxpayer dollars in a desperate search to find something, anything, that they can use to damage President Biden and to protect Donald Trump. Other committees have gotten into the act as well, spending untold taxpayer money not to benefit the American people, not to feed hungry children, not to address our housing crisis, and not to improve our healthcare system, but on a single-minded quest to follow every right-wing conspiracy theory in the vain hope that it might lead to some evidence of wrongdoing. And what exactly have they delivered to the American people on their investment?
The laptop's real.
No evidence that the conspiracies are true, no indictments, no impeachment, no wins of any significance. And the Republican leadership knows that if they don't come up with something to show for the millions of dollars they have spent, the MAGA political base may stay home next November. So they are scrambling in a desperate attempt to look like they have accomplished something. They were fervently hoping that Special Counsel Herr would indict President Biden for mishandling classified documents so that they could attack President Biden and misdirect the American people away from Donald Trump's treacherous handling of classified information. But the Special Counsel cleared Mr. Biden of wrongdoing for reasons that have nothing to do with Mr. Herr's gratuitous and widely contradicted comments about the president's memory.
It wasn't contradicted. As a matter of fact, Herr himself on the stand said, yeah, I said that because it's true.
Yeah, he's got a poor memory.
Yeah, his memory's terrible.
So what do our Republican friends do when an investigation turns up short? Simply put, they engage in fantasy. That's what they are doing here today. Unable to come up with any wrongdoing by the president, they have now trained their sights on the Attorney General.
Yeah.
They accuse him of withholding key evidence, but the Attorney General has substantially complied with their every request. Sometimes he has been too responsive, in my opinion, given the obvious bad faith of the MAGA majority. DOJ has produced 92,000 pages of documents since Republicans took control of the House last year, and has made dozens of witnesses available for interviews, hearings, and briefings. That's more pages of documents and more witnesses than the Trump Justice Department produced to Congress in 4 years. Just last week, the Attorney General himself spent more than 5 hours testifying before the Judiciary Committee. With respect to the subpoena at issue in this contempt resolution, the department turned over all the information Republicans asked for. There's been no obstruction, only cooperation. In reality, the Attorney General and DOJ have been fully responsive to Congress in every way that might be material to their long-dead impeachment inquiry. All that remains are audio files for which the president has asserted executive privilege. In a letter to Chairman Jordan and Comer, the Department of Justice noted that producing the audio recordings would, quote, raise an unacceptable risk of undermining the department's ability to conduct high-profile criminal investigations, in particular with investigations where the voluntary cooperation of White House officials is exceedingly important, close quote.
I genuinely, I'm going to stop for just a second because I genuinely don't understand how that could have anything to do with, like, how could producing a recording compromise their ability to conduct investigations?
I don't know. I think they're just making an excuse.
Yeah, that like, okay, the rest of the stuff is the typical rhetoric from the Democrats, but that makes no sense.
No, I think it's just using it as an excuse.
Okay.
Quote. The chairman claimed that they need those records to understand the pauses, pace, and tone of the conversation. This is absurd and clearly pretextual. And in any event, it does not outweigh the substantial concerns expressed by the president and the department. Moreover, with respect to the recording at issue in this report, a complete certified transcript has already been provided to both committees. And no credible allegation has been made that these transcripts have been altered in any material way. The only
Except that the White House has altered transcripts in the past.
Yeah.
thing that has not been produced is the recording itself, something that in the wrong hands can be easily manipulated. That is not an idle concern. Deep fakes and misleadingly edited videos and recordings have proliferated in recent years. Last year, a witness testifying in a closed-door deposition told us that she was the victim of a manipulated video made by a third party, but shared widely by the Republicans on the Judiciary Committee, who refused to take down the video even after it was abundantly clear that it was manipulated. That video contributed to a flood of death threats against the witness. This isn't really about a policy disagreement with the DOJ.
Do you have any idea what they're talking about there?
A deep fake? Yeah, but you can take different.
No, I know what a deep fake is, but I'm asking, he said that the witness had testified that this widely shared
I'm not
video,
exactly.
the Republicans refused to take it down.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
Like, if you guys know, let me know, because I'm genuinely interested. If that's the case, that's horrible. Once you show something is manipulated, and if you don't put a disclaimer on it, like, that's not okay.
Agreed.
Like, that's not okay.
This is about feeding the MAGA base after 18 months of investigations that have produced failure after failure.
I'm hungry.
Like most of the bills House Republicans have pushed on purely partisan lines, this contempt resolution will do very little, other than smear the reputation of Merrick Garland, who will remain a good and decent public servant no matter what Republicans say about him today.
Okay.
This resolution may boost Donald Trump's spirits before his sentencing, but it will almost certainly not convince the Department of Justice to produce the one remaining file in question. Like the broader impeachment effort before it, this contempt resolution will have been a partisan stunt, destined to fail from the very start. And as I said before, if they were really interested in getting this recording, they would contest the assertion of executive privilege in court, not bring a contempt resolution against the Attorney General. The American people actually need us to do important work. I'm tired of these games, and so are the American people. I urge my colleagues to oppose this measure, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Joe.
The American people are tired of the games.
Yeah.
But not from the Republicans. I see, we're tired of sending money across the ocean, but that's a whole other subject. Okay, so the next one we have is actually just very shortly ahead.
Yeah, it's the net speaker, Comer.
Yep. Okay. So at the 12:50 to 15:45, so about 3 minutes, just shy of, we've got Representative Comer, Republican from Kentucky.
And the chair of the House Oversight Committee.
There you go, the chair of the House Oversight Committee. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Gentleman is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate the gentleman from Ohio for yielding. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the resolution. This is not a complicated matter. The Oversight and Judiciary Committees issued duly authorized legal subpoenas to Attorney General Garland for a certain set of documents, including the audio recordings of Special Counsel Hur's interview with President Biden. The Attorney General has refused to produce these audio recordings. Unlike what my Democratic colleagues keep claiming, this is not just Republicans who need these recordings for their oversight duties. Media outlets, including the AP, CBS, CNN, NBC, and the Washington Post, among others, have filed suit to get these same audio recordings as well. Because the media, like everyone else, knows there's no substitute for a recording of an interview. Not a transcript, not a summary, not the Attorney General's judgment that Congress doesn't need it.
I'm going to pause it here real quick because have you ever had a conversation with someone over text and they completely misconstrued the tone?
Yep.
It happened to me. It used to happen to me all the time until I learned to use emojis properly because my text can seem rather, plus I use sarcasm all the time. Sarcasm does not play well in text, right? So whoever invents the sarcasm font, you are my hero. Anyway, but it won't be useful unless it's widespread. So come on, get on that. Anyway, yeah. So we need more than just text transcript. We need the recording.
Oversight Committee's investigation of these classified documents has already revealed that the White House's official timeline of events regarding these classified materials left out very important details. For instance, White House employees were entering the Penn Biden Center and moving documents months before the discovery of the classified materials by President Biden's personal attorneys in November 2022. One of those employees was former White House counsel Dana Remus. We issued a subpoena for Mrs. Remus's deposition, but the White House has blocked Mrs. Remus from speaking to the Oversight Committee. The White House has also blocked other White House employees who visited the Penn Biden Center before November 2022 from speaking to us. What is the Biden administration trying to hide? Attorney General Merrick Garland's refusal to produce this evidence establishes a clear pattern of obstruction by the DOJ to cover up President Biden's wrongdoing. President Biden has lied to the American people about his mishandling of classified documents. He has repeatedly denied not knowing about or being involved in his family's influence peddling schemes, which the Oversight Committee can now show has raked in $18 million from foreign individuals and entities for the Biden family members, including President Biden himself. He also met with nearly all his family's foreign associates. President Biden's Department of Justice appears to be taking every step to insulate him from the consequences, whether it's hiding these audio recordings or attempting to give Hunter Biden a sweetheart plea deal to shield Joe Biden from facing accountability for his role in his family's influence peddling schemes. This is unacceptable. The House of Representatives cannot serve as a necessary check on the presidency if the executive branch is free to ignore the House's subpoenas. I urge my colleagues to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress, and I yield back.
That's exactly the point that I said earlier, and that is we're supposed to have a three-pronged government, right?
Equal branches.
Right, 3 equal branches, and if the House has ordered an investigation, in this case, production of documents from the executive branch, and the executive branch can go, yeah, we're not going to do that. How is there a checks and balances process there? I'm a little, honestly, I'm a little confused on the whole executive privilege thing in the first place, but that's a topic for another time. Okay, so the next one we have is, Representative
Biggs.
Biggs, right? Yeah, Andy Biggs? Yeah.
From Arizona.
All right, and that is at the looks like 2350 mark.
Yep.
Okay. Let's hear what he has to say.
Thank you. I thank the gentleman for yielding. You know, during his testimony before the House Judiciary Committee, Special Counsel Herr stated that, quote, the evidence and the president himself put his memory squarely at issue, close quote. In his report, Special Counsel Herr noted that during both his and Zwanitzer's interviews with President Biden, the president's memory was significantly limited. President Biden has contested that. The Democrats contest that. But in reality, it's the failure to fully comply with the committee's subpoenas regarding the audio recordings of the Biden and Zwanitzer interviews that has hindered the House's ability to adequately conduct oversight over Special Counsel Herr regarding his investigative findings and the president's retention and disclosure of classified materials, and has impeded the committee's impeachment inquiry. So, the committee must assess whether the Special Counsel Herr's declination decision, which was based on President Biden's poor mental state, was consistent with the department's commitment to impartial justice, or whether legislative reforms are necessary regarding special counsel investigations because they are not leading to impartial outcomes. In short, the audio recordings would offer unique and important information to advance the committee's impeachment inquiry and inform the Judiciary Committee as to the need for legislative reforms to the operations of the department or the conduct of special counsel investigations. Those are legislative purposes, they are constitutional purposes, and they justify us getting the audio recordings. But they don't want the audio recordings to come forward. Why is that? It's odd, isn't it? Because the DOJ admitted in court filings 2 weeks ago that they actually did alter the transcript.
Yeah.
They claim, oh, there's just filler information. Maybe there were duplicative words. There were blank pauses in there that were not noted in the transcript. That's why an audio recording is important.
Yeah.
Because the transcripts do not reflect important verbal context, such as tone or tenor, or nonverbal context, such as pauses or pace of delivery. All of which went into the decision by Mr. Herr not to prosecute a crime that he said was committed.
That's true.
That prosecutorial discretion is under review by our committee legitimately and constitutionally. We have the right to that audio recording. The department has said they're not going to give it to us. Odd. Because the cases that deal with requiring the audio recording to be turned over, the long stain of cases, they turn on various things like the audio recording is the best evidence. They say that. Odd. They also say that if there's tampering or any kind of editing or altering of the written transcript, which we now know is true, then the audio recording is mandatory. That's why we should get it. This department won't give it to us. Merrick Garland is in contempt of this Congress, and he needs to be held in contempt. With that, I yield back.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's not wrong. He's not wrong. I mean, if they've proven that it's been altered, this is the exact opposite of course, what, Nadler says, oh, there's no other evidence, other than the fact that the White House has altered transcripts in the past, other than the fact that the DOJ admitted that they altered the transcripts. Yeah, I mean, right. Other than the fact that they admitted it, there's no evidence. Anyway, our next up, we have Cohen.
Cohen.
Yeah, okay. So we have Representative Cohen from Tennessee.
Yep.
2740.
The Democrat side. Wait.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is absurd. This is Fellini in the Congress, comparing what Joe Biden did to what the other fellow that preceded him in office did in keeping documents in Mar-a-Lago in his bathroom and out in the fancy rooms where all of his billionaire friends go. It's like comparing somebody that writes a bad check by $2, an overdraft, to somebody who's a bank robber with guns and weapons and machine guns going on into banks and robbing money.
There's a reason why I posted this.
Dude, are you kidding me with this rhetoric?
There's a reason. I just wanted, just look at his face. You can just hear and see the hatred that he has for Trump.
Oh my God, he hates him some Trump. Orange Man bad is all over him. Oh my God, lives rent free in his head, doesn't he?
Biden was a sympathetic figure, said Mr. Hur, a Republican who Merrick Garland gave the duty to study that case. He was a sympathetic figure. You don't commit a crime unless there is guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Mr. Hur found there could not be guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
He said he was an old guy
who
had a poor memory.
Refusing to comply with requests to give the documents, classified documents up, refusing, and then having to have a search warrant and finding them, hundreds of documents. Not for the purpose of writing a book.
I'm going to say that it doesn't matter what the purpose is. Number one, dipshit. But number two, he was the president. This guy wasn't even in office.
He was.
Biden was after vice president, and the vice president doesn't have any ability to declassify.
And some of it goes back to when he was a senator.
Right. And no, he didn't find that he was, beyond a reasonable doubt. Not at all. Not even remotely. What he said was, this dipshit has Alzheimer's. We can't prosecute him. That's
not in those exact words, but
not exactly in those words, of course, but
that he was an old guy,
reasonable individual who can read and hear what Hur said. He's got dementia. His memory's not there. It would be tragic to prosecute this old man. That's basically what it comes down to. But of course, Trump's a bank robber. Dude, really?
Democrats have gone crazy.
Oh my God, it's nuts. And this is why I like when you put this stuff together, because I cannot believe the sheer level of rhetoric here. All right. Wow.
Should be almost
for somebody
over.
who can't even read a book.
What?
But for purposes that we don't know and what they were used.
Yeah, he said what he.
But writing a book for somebody who can't even read a book.
I'm not sure if he's talking about Biden or if he's talking about Trump.
Yeah, that's.
I think he's trying to.
I think he's trying to insult Trump, but
it didn't come off that way.
Yeah. Bruh.
But
it should be almost
for
over.
Purposes that we don't know and what they were used for, but they were taken illegally and improperly. Merrick Garland is an honorable and good man. He should be in the College of Cardinals and not being tried for contempt by this Fellini.
His time has expired.
Okay. Wow, dude. Oh my God. And bear in mind, ladies and gentlemen, most of these people are millionaires. And they got that way because of this, because of the ability to talk, to say whatever the hell they want.
Insider trading.
And insider trading, absolutely. And lobbying. Okay. Anyway, wow, dude. Okay, so this was Cohen, right?
Yep.
This guy's from Tennessee. Come on, Tennessee, do better.
He's been in office for a while.
Yeah. Oh, you can look at him and tell. I mean,
I want to say 16 years. I think he's been there.
Good Lord. All right. So the next one we have is Representative McClintock, an actual Republican from California. I know. Very rare breed. And we are at, that one is 35. What? 3520. Close enough? Is this him or?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Again, a Republican from California. Almost a unicorn. Here we go.
So recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, for the first time in American history, a presidential administration is trying to jail its opponent.
Yeah.
And not just any opponent, but a former president of the United States.
Yeah.
To pursue this objective, Mr. Biden's Attorney General approved an unprecedented armed raid on a former president's home, despite strenuous objections by his career officials and the local field office that normally would have had jurisdiction.
Yeah.
He then created a new position without the constitutional requirement of congressional action or Senate confirmation. He filled that position with one Jack Smith.
Yep.
Despite the central role Smith had played in the IRS scandal that targeted and harassed the Tea Party volunteers, and despite a long history of prosecutorial misconduct.
With Lois Lerner.
The cooked-up charge was the mishandling of classified documents. Well, shortly thereafter, we discovered that as vice president, Joe Biden had done the same thing. Yet, as president, Mr. Trump had absolute authority to declassify materials at will. As vice president, Joe Biden did not.
No.
Exactly.
As president, Mr. Trump had absolute authority to determine what records to keep upon leaving office. As vice president, Joe Biden did not.
Correct.
Yet, the Biden administration's appointed special counsel in the Biden case concluded that although Biden had, quote, willfully retained and disclosed classified materials when he was a private citizen, criminal charges were not warranted because he's, quote, a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. Well, the principal justification for this glaring double standard in the handling of these two cases was the interview with Mr. Biden. Yet all we have is the unverified transcript to determine the validity of this otherwise inexplicable decision. Mr. Biden cannot claim executive privilege. This was not a policy discussion, and he's already released the transcript. But it is vital that our committee know if the transcript is complete and whether it accurately portrays the circumstances under which that decision was made.
Yeah.
2 Trump officials have been sentenced to prison for their failure to honor congressional subpoenas.
Steve Bannon.
That case was far weaker than this one because at the time, Congress was not exercising oversight or considering legislation. In this case, the Judiciary Committee is doing both. Yet once again, we have this glaring legal double standard at play. Now, I expect the Attorney General to thumb his nose at the citation. We've come to expect that of him.
Yeah.
But the House Judiciary Committee is charged with defending and upholding the rule of law and its fundamental principle of equal justice under law. And if we're going to restore them, this resolution is an indispensable step that we must take today. And I reserve the balance of my time.
What? Yeah, equal justice under the law, equal treatment under the law. No one is above the law. No one is above the law. That's what the Democrats have been screaming for years now, right? So, anyway.
We get to see Nadler again.
Oh, God, come on, man. You're killing me. No, I get it. I get it. All right. He
like
likes
a
to
minute.
hear himself talk. All right. So,
It should be just right.
Yeah, just
Gentleman reserves the balance of the time. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from New York.
Mr. Speaker, the gentleman just attacked Special Counsel Smith. This dangerous attempt to demonize anybody who would hold Donald Trump accountable for his actions is despicable, and it is a full-out assault on the basic tenets of our democracy. I want to remind my colleagues that these types of actions have consequences. They affect the lives of many men and women who have dedicated themselves to public service and upholding the rule of law. I will submit for the record a June 11, 2024 article in the Washington Post by the Honorable Merrick Garland entitled, "Unfounded Attacks on the Justice Department Must End." It is absurd and dangerous that public servants, many of whom risk their lives every day, are being threatened for simply doing their jobs and adhering to the principles that have long guided the Justice Department's work. I would also remind my friend on the other side of the aisle.
I think what they're talking about, right, is since we discovered, we meaning we the people, have discovered that the FBI is simply a political branch now and is corrupt to the core. Unfortunate, dude. I used to love the FBI. I watch Criminal Minds. I watch all kinds of like FBI. Anyway, since we've discovered that, it seems that all of a sudden the Democrats love the FBI. And so I guess they published this opinion piece, because that's what it was. It was an opinion piece in WAPO, which, anyway, that said this. You're using that as evidence?
I don't know how that has anything to do with the subpoena for Biden.
And for him himself. Anyway, we only got 10 seconds more to listen to this clown.
That the conviction of Mr. Trump was in a state court in New York, having nothing to do with the federal government. And I now yield 1 minute to the distinguished
All right,
gentleman.
that should be good.
Okay.
All right, Daryl Issa now. Unless you had something to add.
Yeah, I no. All right. Representative Issa,
Yep.
another Republican
Yep.
from California.
There's like
Wow. I know you said there's a few. Okay. Again, Republican from California, Representative Issa.
who actually got his
Issa?
yeah, Isa.
Issa.
Who actually got his money in the private market. He did not get rich from the government. He created the car alarms.
He created car alarms? This guy did?
He one of the companies. Yeah, he founded one of the companies.
Wow, look at
Just
that.
something interesting
Learn
to know.
something new every day.
Just
Yeah.
something interesting.
Right. Okay, here we go.
Recognized.
I thank the gentleman. I'm not going to refer to the current president or the presumptive nominee. I am going to refer for my colleagues, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to refer to the history of this body, because I think the study of the history of this body should tell members on both sides of the aisle that this is an appropriate contempt. It will lead eventually to compliance and again to holding this body as a co-equal of government. I might remind my colleagues, some of them here in the room, Mr. Speaker, that in 2007, this body held the White House consul on behalf of the President of the United States, then President Bush, in contempt for refusing to show up before this very committee, Judiciary.
Oh, yeah.
In 2012, this body held a previous Attorney General
Eric Holder.
in a very similar situation affecting the same two committees that have been speaking here, Oversight and Judiciary, held Eric Holder in contempt because he told us that if we would take 200 and some documents and that was all that was left and end our case, he would give them to us. Otherwise, he would withhold them.
For Fast
We
and
held him in
Furious.
contempt. And Judge Amy Berman Jackson, an appointee of President Obama, held several things, including that President Obama had clearly falsely claimed an executive privilege, probably based on being misled by then Eric Holder, the Attorney General. And in fact, 10,000 plus documents were turned over to the United States Congress. The then Attorney General had lied. The then Attorney General, Eric Holder, had lied to this body and to the chairman of the committee, and ultimately was held in contempt on a bipartisan basis with 12 members of the other party voting for that contempt. And after a long period of time, we managed to get the equilibrium this body deserves. I call, Mr. Speaker, on this body and all my colleagues today to live up to the standard that we learned in 2007 when a White House, then of a Republican, refused to deliver a witness. Then in 2012, when the Attorney General claimed that we were not entitled to the best documents we sought, we were entitled to the documents related to Fast and Furious that he believed were appropriate. He failed, and he failed based on a judge appointed by then President Obama. Why? Because this body does have the obligation and the right to seek all of the best evidence it believes, not that the other side believes, it believes. There's been no call for an in-camera review, no call for any kind of compromise. Once again, we're to take the word of an attorney general working for the current president that there's nothing there. I watch a lot of television over the years. I am not going to believe these are not the droids we're looking for. This, in fact, could be important evidence. Whether it is or isn't germane. What is important is that this body live up to, in fact, its obligation. And I call on every member, those on the other side who did or didn't join with me in 2012, but who voted in 2007 to hold the White House in contempt, to consider whether once again we're balancing the power and the right of this body, and many are arguing against the best interest of the United States House of Representatives. And for that, Mr. Speaker, shame on those who do. And I yield back.
I mean, he does make some solid points. Even if you're, for whatever reason, believe that Garland's in the right on this, which he's not.
No.
But even if or you believe that this is some kind of anti-Biden witch hunt. We've seen over and over this body hold people in contempt for not doing what they were instructed to do. So this is definitely not unprecedented.
And two of Trump's people in his administration have went to jail.
Right.
Steve Bannon has to report next month, and Peter Navarro is in jail right now.
Right. Both of them for contempt of Congress, right? Interesting. But, of course, rules for thee, but not for me when it comes to the Democrats. Last clip that we have for you is Representative Chip Roy from Texas. He's almost always entertaining. All right, so we're going to the 53-minute and 16-second mark. And again, I'm going to tell you guys, the name of this video is Just In, Republicans and Democrats Trade Blows Over GOP's Merrick Garland Contempt Resolution. If you want to go and watch the whole thing.
On Forbes Breaking News
YouTube
it's on
page.
Forbes
and YouTube. Knock yourself out. I can't. Me personally, I just can't. I start throwing stuff at the TV. My mom used to yell at the TV, and I'd be like, "They can't hear you, Mom." And I'm her now. God help me. All right. So, all right. Close enough. We are very close, 53-16 to 57-20, and this is the final clip that we have, and then we'll discuss.
Gentleman's recognized.
I thank the gentleman from California. I thank the speaker. Listen to my colleagues discussing the rule of law. I find it shocking because the average American is looking across their country wondering what happened to the rule of law. When I watch my fellow Texans getting destroyed by dangerous cartels and individuals being allowed into the United States, terrorists, people moving fentanyl into the communities that killed 6 kids in the school district in which I live. That's happening every single day. When I watch a 75-year-old woman being put in prison by a politically motivated judge in the District of Columbia because she protested in front of an abortion clinic. I want to say that again. This Department of Justice is putting a 75-year-old woman in jail for 2 years who is dealing with physical infirmities because she was praying and protesting in front of an abortion clinic. That is astounding. That is what has happened to the rule of law.
Yeah.
The American people watching while statues are being defaced in the name of being pro-Palestinian. People exercising their so-called free speech rights to be advancing the cause of terrorism against our friends in Israel, all happening right here, mere feet from the White House. The American people are wondering how this world got turned upside down. And here we sit and we're debating this issue. And the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, came before the House Judiciary Committee just a little over a week ago. And in that hearing, a number of questions were asked. And I engaged with the Attorney General. And I asked the Attorney General, did he or did he not claim privilege with respect to the transcripts of the audio recording in question when we were talking about Special Counsel Hur looking into the allegations of the abuse of classified materials by the President of the United States before he was president. And I asked him, he said, no, we did not claim executive privilege with respect to the transcripts. In a separate exchange involving the best evidence rule, the Attorney General is engaging with another colleague, a friend on the Judiciary Committee, about the best evidence rule, and in doing so, articulated and explained how the transcript was admissible under the best evidence rule, which is correct. But in doing so, he kind of gave up the game in which he described and said, they're the same. He said to the committee, he said, they're the same. Now, he just told me that they did not claim executive privilege with respect to the transcript. Then he said to all of us, they're the same. The audio recording and the transcript are the same. And then he proceeds to say that he must, in defending the rule of law, claim executive privilege on the actual audio, and then deny the members of Congress the ability in the middle of an impeachment inquiry, duly constituted, voted on by this body on the House floor, an impeachment inquiry, to then deny us the ability to listen to the audio. The fact of the matter is, there's only one reason why the Attorney General would do that. He doesn't want us to hear it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And there's really only two reasons why that would be the case. Either the transcript doesn't match the audio, or the audio is so bad that he doesn't want us to hear it.
I think it's the second one.
Special Counsel Hur put the entirety of his decision not to prosecute, not to pursue, not to go after the President of the United States for abuse of classified materials. He did it entirely on the basis of what we perceive as the demeanor of the president, which only the audio can allow Congress the ability to determine the validity of that determination by the special counsel. I yield back.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's it exactly. Only the audio can show the demeanor.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get that from text-based.
No.
I mean, it's going to look like clear answers or whatever. So ultimately, and I did find it interesting because let's face it, I don't have time to watch every single video that United States Congress is involved in, every single hearing and all of that. I don't know many Americans who have that kind of time other than Shawn. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you a hard time. He picks out the most important stuff for us, which I greatly appreciate. So I didn't even know that Garland had claimed that the audio and the transcript are the same. If they're the same, then executive privilege shouldn't apply.
And then why can't you release it?
Yeah, if they're the same. And like he said, there's only two reasons to not release it. Either it would prove that they altered the transcripts, which the DOJ already admitted that. And or it's going to show how gone Biden is, which is it's going to reflect very negatively on resident ice cream and make him look even worse than we think he is.
I think it's the second one.
I think it's the second one as well. Because Hur based his decision, and this, I'm reiterating, but Hur based his decision to not seek charges based on demeanor, based on the fact that he's an old man with a memory problem. How,
it'll be interesting to see if they do that second vote to actually have the sergeant at arms arrest him.
Yeah, oh man.
I'll keep you updated.
Yeah, definitely keep me updated because we if that happens, man, we need to have a watch party or something.
Yeah,
because wow,
that would be American history right there.
Oh yeah, like you said, it hasn't been done since the 1800s, or it was done once since the 1800s.
I think it's only done once in history, and from my records, it was like once in history in 1877. Some people from Louisiana got arrested. Do you want the link again? Or you can try to find it.
I'm going to see if it's on Wikipedia here. That's... Prior to the advent of statutory contempt procedures in 1857, the sergeant at arms was responsible for arresting those cited by the House.
Interesting.
For contempt of, I had to click here. I'll show you guys. Let me get this off of here because this is really quite interesting. Let's see. Here it is. Okay, so this is from. Where's this? Okay, this is govinfo.gov, and it's precedents of the House. Ask unanimous consent that notwithstanding the... Here, I'm going to move us out of the way here. There we go. That notwithstanding the Cindy adjournment of the House, the clerk be authorized to receive messages from the Senate, and that the Speaker or the Speaker pro tempore be authorized to sign any enrolled bills, blah, 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 blah. Okay, the Sergeant at Arms of the House of Representatives is an elected officer whose duties fall primarily within the spheres of security and the enforcement of rules relating to proper conduct and decorum in the House chamber. The Sergeant at Arms attends all sittings of the House. At the beginning of each legislative day, the Sergeant at Arms, or an employee of the office, leads the procession of officers as they enter the chamber bearing the mace of the House of Representatives, which is the symbol of the office of the Sergeant at Arms. The Sergeant at Arms is one of the oldest officer positions in the House. When the House first ordered that a committee be formed to draft standing rules for the House, it simultaneously ordered that, quote, they also report the duty and services of a Sergeant at Arms or other proper officer for enforcing the orders of the House. Provisions establishing the office of the Sergeant at Arms were thereafter incorporated into the standing rules on April 14, 1789. It was formerly the case that the Sergeant at Arms had additional duties relating to the financial operations of the House, including payroll. Virtually all these responsibilities were transferred during other officers during the administrative reforms of the mid-90s. Okay. Duties. Primary duty. Maintain order. Direction of speaker. Direct the Sergeant at Arms to present the mace. Tasked with strictly enforcing the rules of decorum listed in Clause 5, which include prohibitions on trafficking the well of the House while another member is speaking, wearing a hat in the chamber, no hats, remaining near the clerk's desk during certain votes, smoking in the chamber, and using an electronic device on the floor of the House that impairs decorum.
Interesting.
Yeah. If a member uses an electronic device to engage in still photography or audio-visual recording within the House chamber, which is in contravention of Clause 5 of Rule 17 or any applicable policy promulgated by the Speaker, the Sergeant at Arms is authorized under Clause 3 to impose a fine on such member. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Decorum this. Okay. In rare circumstances, they can be called upon to preside over a session. Interesting. Pursuant to Clause 13 of Rule 23, the Code of Official Conduct, the Sergeant at Arms is responsible for maintaining custody of oaths of secrecy executed by officers and employees of the House in order to access classified information. I was like, oaths of secrecy, what? But it makes sense for classified information. Basically, you're saying you're not going to reveal it to anybody. That makes sense. Okay. Close relationship with the Capitol Police. All right, come on, where is it? Supervises employees.
There's the oath.
Yeah. Hold on.
See if I can find it.
Okay, yeah, the Sergeant at Arms can, upon orders of the Senate, arrest and detain any person who violates Senate rules or is found in contempt of Congress. The Sergeant at Arms is also the executive officer for the Senate, and no, this has to be the Senate Sergeant at Arms. Here it is. Hold on. Okay, this is Quora. Thought I saw something. Can compel the attendance of an absent senator when ordered to do so by the Senate. They shall, in all cases, except treason, felony, and breach of the peace, be privileged from arrest during their attendance at the session. Yeah, that's.
Do you want the link that I sent you yesterday?
What was it?
Let me find it again. Here it is.
Hold on, what is this?
Here it is.
Hold on. Assistant to House Sergeant at Arms charged with possession of child. Yeah, bad stuff.
That's bad stuff.
Yeah. CNN. Did you guys hear about this?
I don't remember that.
This is from 2021, October 16th, 2021.
I'm trying to remember if I remember that.
Assistant to the U.S. House of Representatives Sergeant at Arms has been arrested and charged with 10 felony counts related to the possession of CP, according to court records filed Wednesday. Wow.
I sent you that. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, okay. That took a turn, a dark ass turn. All right.
I sent you the link.
Okay. It's about the last person arrested.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's check this out. Sorry about the delay. I got like, what? Huh? Hold on.
I don't remember that.
Right? I thought it was going to be easier to find. Yeah, I remember seeing this. Okay. So what happens, right? What happens if they do decide to
arrest Garland?
Well, prisons in the U.S. Capitol. Several rooms in the United States Capitol have been used at various times for the detention of offenders. They were called guard rooms, and it is not always possible to determine whether those rooms were kept strictly for custody of prisoners or were also used as guard stations. An 1826 report from the Committee on Public Buildings and Grounds included plans for a guard room and other spaces in a terrace on the west front of the Capitol. An 1859 receipt shows that the House of Representatives and the Senate evidently were charged equal assessments for equipment of the guard room, indicating that one such served both houses of Congress, which would make sense. I mean, how many congressmen / senators need to be imprisoned at the same time? In 1829, journalist Anne Royal attended the inauguration of President Andrew Jackson and made her way into the Capitol. She would later write, quote, I ran upstairs to look out some upper windows, and here I found a colored man in a violent passion. He had been locked up. Unfortunately, no information has been found about the location or circumstances of the man's confinement, nor of his identity. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
On April 8, 1861, troops in the Capitol during the Civil War established a guardhouse in the room now occupied as the House of Representatives Post Office in the southeast corner of the ground floor of the Capitol. An October 6, 1902 article in the Washington Evening Star, wow, I haven't heard of them in a long time. Didn't they go out of business?
I think so, yeah.
States that the first man arrested by the military authorities during the war was imprisoned here, being accused of filling artillery shells with sawdust while working at the U.S. Arsenal. That's bad. Freed after 10 days by the intercession of his friends in the city, he was later rumored to have served the Confederate forces as a gunner. The room is now numbered H-124 and is assigned to the Sergeant-at-Arms. Another incarceration was reported in the Evening Star of February 13, 1862. Quote, after considerable discussion, the House adopted a resolution directing the confinement of Mr. Henry Wyckoff until he shall purge himself of contempt or is discharged by the House. The accused was then placed in the guard room under the Capitol. Wyckoff reportedly had, quote, refused to, quote, give a satisfactory answer to the charge preferred against him, end quote. No further information about Wyckoff, his alleged offense, or the disposition of the matter has been found in the records of the architect of the Capitol, which that is the second imprisonment in the Capitol that there no records exist of. That should concern every American. It does me.
Yeah.
Like all the stuff that's going on, just really quickly, all the stuff that's going on with the justice system right now. And we're finding out that people have been imprisoned in the Capitol building and no records exist of this.
Kind of weird.
Yeah, and that's just what we know of.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like all the illegals, just what we know of. In May 1868, the Congressional Globe includes a resolution proposed in the House to fit up 2 rooms near the Court of Claims in the Capitol as guard room and office for the Capitol Police, prompted by the fact that the lack of such facilities at the time compelled the detention of a recusant witness named Woolley in the room of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, present day H-311. Solicitor for the Court of Claims described the proposed guard room as, quote, altogether unfit for any human habitation, night or day, in hot weather. Sounds like Indiana State Prison, dude. Hot weather. Oh my God, people falling out. And asserted that, quote, to doom this victim to remain there is to doom him to a living death. However, the plan was apparently carried out. The 1868 report of the architect of the Capitol extension refers to, quote, a guard room fitted up with steam pipes for heating and water closets and washstands that may well be the room mentioned in an 1869 guidebook. Quote, A narrow passage on the left of the western entrance to the crypt. There's a crypt in the Capitol?
I guess so. I didn't know about that.
We'll have to find out what that's about on another show. Leads to the guard room of the Capitol Police, who use the apartment to secure offenders should their detention become necessary. The locations given suggest that the room may be modern day H-159. The rooms in this area are presently used by the Capitol physician for medical purposes. Guidebook of 1874 shows the guard room is a small space accessible by a door in the northwest section of the U.S. Capitol crypt. That area today is a windowless storage room. In 1877, description of the congressional record indicates that a different space was used for the confinement of 2 Louisiana election officials. Is this what you were talking about? Quote, it is a little room in the basement of the Capitol with but 2 windows opening upon no sunlight, but upon a narrow confined court into which no gleam of sunshine can ever enter. That sounds like a joyful place, doesn't it? Floor plans from that year show that the room was likely 11-159. I think it's supposed to, H-15. I was going to say. If so, the accounts in the record make it clear that conditions in the room had not markedly improved since its similar use in 1868. It is described as, quote, a room so dark that it is necessary to keep the gas burning all day. A room that stinks, that smells like the den of some foul reptile. A room where thieves arrested around the Capitol are kept. That sounds like a fun place to be. Although the room was listed as House Document Room, the reference to the apparently routine keeping of thieves suggests that it continued to serve as a guard room as well, at least when multiple inmates were to be confined. 1889, a recusant witness before a Senate committee was taken into custody, but the area of his detention is not identified. There is no evidence in the records of the architect of the Capitol of any designated guard room or detention in the detention area in the Capitol since that time. Just real quick. Oh, the vaulted space beneath the rotunda has long been called the crypt because of its resemblance to similar areas in churches. Okay, so does it hold, okay? Located in the crypt are 13 statues from the National Statuary Hall collection representing the 13 original colonies and the Magna Carta replica and display.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I did not know that.
Beneath the crypt is a space where Congress had hoped to place the remains of George and Martha Washington. However, their graves remained at Mount Vernon, and no one has been buried in the Capitol. That's the one thing that I was pretty sure about, was that nobody was buried at the Capitol, which is why when I saw the crypt, I was like, wait, huh? What crypt? But okay, that makes sense. And the statues in there is probably like, okay, let's call this place the crypt. And they had wanted to inter George and Martha Washington in there. So interesting.
Yeah.
So that's where that, I'm guessing that if that's what it's been used for, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting. So yeah. That's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you found this information useful. If you did, give us a thumbs up, man. My wife's been on me to start asking for thumbs up and subscribes, please. It really, really, really helps me, especially with YouTube trying to, do what it does to people who tell the truth. So she's like, I'm like, yeah, I hate listening to that all the time from people. I'm not going to do it on every video. But she's been like, you need to say that. I'm like, I'll make a little video and play it right at the end. She's like, no, people want to hear you ask. I was like, fine. Fine. Anyway, that's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you found this information useful. Give a big shout out, seriously, to Shawn. He spent all the time watching this, making the timestamps. I really do appreciate it, and I'm sure you do too. We'll see you next time. Today's Thursday. Yep. Tomorrow we're going down to the convention. I am, myself and my wife. Shawn was not elected as a delegate this time, but the more the more interesting stuff that's happening, the more he's like, I'm thinking about running, because we are talking about, if you guys didn't watch it, some big fundamental changes potentially to the way that the convention works, to what changes can be made, and more importantly, to start holding these politicians accountable. Because if the delegation can alter the wording of, I shouldn't say alter the wording, if the delegates can vote on a direction for the Republican Party, then we can ensure that our elected representatives are upholding what we want them to. They're doing their job, man. Do your job, dude. That's it. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to report to Shawn while I'm down there at least. I'm going to try to keep you guys updated as well. And we're going to have a video on it when I get back, hopefully.
Awesome.
We're going to try to make it back fairly early on Sunday. And then maybe Shawn and I can talk on camera about what happened there.
Good idea.
Yeah, let's plan on that. I'm going to try to get it set up. The only thing that would prevent it is if there's some issue getting back in time. But God willing, we'll be down there and back before you know it. That's it. That's all I got.
That's all I got.
All right. I'm going to, just so you know, guys, I'm going to set up a couple of videos to play while I'm gone. Because I can do that now. It's so awesome since I figure out how to set that up. And so you guys will have some entertainment. If you're not delegates, if you are, you're going to be too busy to watch videos, man. It's going to be buck wild, I'm hoping. So, all right. Without further ado, God bless you. God bless Indiana. And God bless the United States of America. I hope you have a wonderful evening. And I'll see you guys after this weekend. Good night.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Shawn Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2024. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.